Hey, what's up everyone? So this video is going to be an experiment video. We're going to take a look at whether an AI can write automated tests for us. So the AI tool that we're going to be using in this video is called ChatGPT, which is built by OpenAI. Now this is a trained language model that interacts with you in a conversational way. Now this tool has been gaining quite a bit of popularity in the tech industry, and that's because while this tool is great in answering your day-to-day questions, where it really shines is coming up with coding answers on the spot. So I'm going to be asking this AI tool 5 different questions that will increase in difficulty as we go to help us build test automation script. So the framework that we're going to be using with this AI tool is going to be Cypress. So let's go ahead and get started by asking our first question. All right, so I'm over here in the ChatGPT window. I'm going to add the link for this tool in the description below so that you can test it out as well. But just remember, at the moment, this tool is free because it's in the research preview phase, but eventually they are planning it to make this a paid tool. But for now, let's go ahead and test this tool out and see how good it is. So they have some examples over here which you can ask this tool to do. For example, you can ask this tool to explain you some kind of complex concept, or basically you can ask this tool to generate some kind of ideas for you, or ask some kind of coding questions as well. In our case, we're going to be asking a coding question, and the one I'm going to be asking is, in Cypress, I wanted to create an end-to-end test that opens up the Practice Automation Bro website, and then I wanted to go ahead and click the Get Started button with an ID Get Started, and then I wanted to assert that the URL contains Get Started. So here I'm on the Practice Automation Bro website. So I wanted to essentially come to this website and then click on this Get Started button using the ID Get Started. Once it clicks, I simply wanted to verify that the URL contains Get Started. Now I know this already seems a little bit complicated, and for an AI tool to generate something like this seems probably unreasonable, but let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm going to hit enter and see what we get. All right, so it's saying to create an end-to-end test in Cypress, open up the Practice Automation Bro website and click on Get Started button. This is what it needs to do. First, install Cypress on your computer by running this command. Then open up Cypress using npx cypress open, or basically node module Cypress. And then in the test runner, create a new file. And essentially it's going ahead and explaining us how it can click the Get Started button. All right, so let's see. So there's a lot of things it's trying to explain it over here, which is really nice. It's quite detailed. Now, probably by the time when you will try to get this tool to do something for you, or even a similar scenario, it might not give you all this detailed instruction, but let's go ahead and see what it actually did for us. So first of all, we already read till here. It's trying to install npx Cypress, which is pretty nice. It's asking you to then open up Cypress in the from your terminal and then create a new file. And then it's basically creating this code here. So it created a describe block and an id block, which is visit the website and click on the Get Started button. So it automatically knew what kind of test name to give, which is really nice. And then it's using site.visit to open up the Practice Automation Bro website. And then it's doing do get using Get Started, which is the element ID we provided, and then do a dot click on it. So it says, okay, this is your test. And then to assert the URL which contains Get Started, we can just use this. I really like this, by the way. I don't know if you're already impressed or not, but I was really impressed the first time I saw this tool do this. So it even told you, okay, this is the assertion part. So if you want to add in your assertion, your overall test will look like this. And this is pretty impressive. I think this code will definitely work. And in fact, you know what? Let's test this out. For the first one, I'm going to test it out, not for all the other scenarios. And just for those of you guys that are not familiar with Cypress, let me just show you what exactly this will do. So I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to open up VS Code. All right, so I'm over here in VS Code. So I'm going to simply paste this code. And then I'm going to open up Chrome because it's going to run it in Chrome browser. And there you go. So let me just hit refresh so that you can see what exactly it did. So it's visiting the Practice Automation Bro website. Then it went ahead and did get on the Get Started button, which is right here. It did a dot click on it, and then it asserted that the URL contains Get Started. And you can see over here, the entire thing is in green. That means our test passed. So this is really impressive. This tool was able to create an entire test for us, not only just generate code, but even was able to explain what this code did. So let's go back to that to take a look at it again. So there you go. So it's even telling you can save the test file and then just simply do run all test, and it's going to go ahead and open up the website, click the Get Started button and assert this URL for you. All right. So honestly, guys, this is quite amazing for an AI tool to be able to give us such detailed answer and explain it to you how you can write your end-to-end test from scratch. Basically, essentially, it's installing the Cypress and kind of giving you all the information you need to write this test. So for this first test, it's a direct pass. I think it was amazing. It gave you all this information. Even if someone is new that don't understand Cypress, I feel like this is going to be quite a bit of detailed information for them to get started. All right, so let's move on to our second scenario, which is going to be a little bit more detailed and see whether this tool can still go ahead and generate such nice tests for us or not. So the next scenario is going to be a little bit complicated. So let me paste that and then explain it to you what we wanted to do. So I'm saying in Cypress, I wanted to create an end-to-end test that does the following. First, open up the Practice Automation Bro website. Then I want you to verify the length of the primary menu links, which are the navigation links, and make sure that that's greater than 5. And then I want you to loop through the first 5 primary menu links and verify that each link has a text that matches through this array. So let me just show you to you on the website. So over here on the website, you can see we have this primary menu navigation links. So I'm saying get the length of this navigation links and make sure this is greater than 5. So over here you can see we already have 6. And then I want you to go ahead and get the text of each of this individual link, basically the first 5, and then verify the text of those first 5. So I know this one is complicated, but let's see how well this will do. So let's go ahead and try to run this and see what we get. All right, so once again, it's trying to write down all of the detailed instruction for us. So it seems to be pretty much similar to what we had before. So it's kind of doing the same thing, install Cypress, then open up Cypress, create a new file. Okay, so it created a test, visit the website and verify that the primary menu link have more than 5 items. Wow, it created a variable for us which contains all of the expected links, which is really nice. All right, so it finished running the entire thing and let's see what we get. So obviously first here it broke it down into 2 separate use cases, which is really nice. So it kind of knows that I'm asking for 2 different things over here. So the first one, it went ahead and visited the website and then it made sure that the length, basically the primary menu anchor link should have length greater than 5. So that's nice. It's already able to verify the length should be greater than 5. So that's kind of first scenario. And I think it did pretty well over here. It was able to verify that the length is greater than 5 for the primary menu navigation links. The next one is it's going ahead and looping through the first 5 primary menu links. Now this one doesn't seem to be working correctly because I said to go through first 5 primary menu links. Seems like it went ahead and looped through the entire primary menu links. So over here, it should have added a filter to only loop through the first 5. So I didn't really do that well over here. Seem to have missed the instruction where I provided the first 5 primary menu link. Seems like it was able to recognize it here, but it ignored it when it kind of gave me the code. But what was really nice was it created a nice constant variable. And now over here, it's doing .each and kind of going through this and expecting it through the expected links over here, which is really nice because it's kind of created the variable on its own instead of just directly pasting it over there. And then final code is basically like this. So we are first verifying our first assertion that the length should be greater than 5. And then it's kind of going through it and looping through that the text is basically this expected links. So I feel like this code will work, but it will fail because we have more than 5. So it should have added kind of a filter to only check for first 5 things. But regardless, nonetheless, I know this is not a perfect tool. At the end of the day, you have to do some coding yourself as well. But this is pretty amazing that it was able to recognize all of this. You can simply copy paste this code and kind of make changes wherever you need. Although I would not recommend to kind of just use this tool. Use it whenever you kind of get stuck somewhere, you need some extra help. This is a great tool in that case. But that being said, you should still know how to go ahead and create this test on your own, because at the end of the day, if this doesn't work, you have to troubleshoot it yourself. You have to fix it yourself. So, and specifically when you're picking up someone else's code, you should understand how it works. So once again, this tool is great to kind of get you up and running. If you need some help, it can help you kind of generate this for us. But overall, guys, I mean, I don't think I have anything to say over here. This is pretty amazing. So without wasting any more time, let's jump on to the next scenario and see whether it can help us debug our test as well or not. So let's do that. All right, so this tool did some great job in creating some new tests. But let's see whether it can help us debug some tests as well or not. So I'm going to paste a script here and I'm going to ask this tool to figure out what's wrong with this code. So just imagine you're trying to do something in your when you're building your test and something is not working. So you're going to try to paste this code here and see what's going on. So let's see how this does. So I'm going to paste that here. So I'm simply asking what's wrong with the code below. And over here, I've created this code. And when I'm trying to run it, let's say locally, something is now working. Now in this case, just to already tell you what's wrong over here is, if you haven't already caught, in this case, I forgot to add the parentheses here. It should actually be site.url with parentheses to actually execute that function. But I forgot to do that, and this is obviously on purpose. So now let's try to run this and see whether this AI tool can recognize that or not. So I'm going to hit enter. So it's saying it has a couple of issues, which is interesting. So it's saying, firstly, the URL property on the site object is a function. So it should be called with parentheses like this. But also gave me something else too. So let's see. So it's saying, secondly, the URL should also be, it says, secondly, the should method is being used with the wrong syntax. It should be called like this. Site.url should include get started, which is weird because that's exactly what I was doing. All right, so the first one makes sense. We don't already have parentheses. And second one, it's saying that it should be called like this. Let me see what I was doing there. I was doing the same thing as well. So I'm doing site.url, and the only thing I had was missing parentheses, which it was able to correct. And the second one was it's using the wrong syntax for should. And okay, so maybe the way it was able to pick this up, it thought that I'm trying to use should with URL, which is actually wrong. So that's why it added a parenthesis there. And then it's telling me, okay, then you should also use your should method like this. So not bad. I mean, it seems a little bit confusing, but overall, it kind of gave us the right code. I can simply copy this and paste it there, and that should work. So it kind of did a fair job in terms of recognizing there was a syntax issue. I was supposed to actually execute this URL method or call that function, but I wasn't doing that. So it was able to recognize that. Now let's try to run through another script and see whether it's able to recognize what's wrong with that script or not. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and paste the second script. So in this case, same thing, I'm saying what's wrong with the script below. So there's a couple of things here just to kind of point it out for you guys. Here I should be doing site.get, but I removed get here just to kind of see whether it's able to figure that out. And another thing, this should be, for the assertion, it should say to be greater than 5. So I'm going to try to run this and see what we get back. Now, by the way, this is all first time I'm trying this out, so I'm actually interested to see whether it can find this out or not. Let's run this. So once again, it's saying there are a couple of issues. The firstly, site.function should be called with .get. So that was our first issue. So it's able to recognize that. So it's important to retrieve it from the DOM elements. It's even giving me an example that that's how it should be called, which is nice. And even secondly, the greater than method is part of chai assertion, but it is not being used properly. So it's telling me it should be using with .2b above 5. It kind of changed the assertion for me. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. So it's saying it should be site.get, which is correct. That's so it gets full point over there. So it should be site.get instead of just doing site.directly the assertion, which is what I was doing over here. So it fixed that. For the second one, it's saying I should use expect links.length .2b above 5. And the one I was using was 2 greater than 5. So it could have fixed it even just 2b greater than. That should have done it as well. But it kind of went ahead and changed the assertion for me. It's saying 2b above 5. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with this. Even this would work. So it's kind of, once again, whenever it generates this code for us, there's multiple ways of doing this. So by the time you can actually copy paste and paste this code in your terminal or VS Code, this would most likely work. So I feel like once again, it did a great job over here in terms of debugging the code and figuring out what was wrong from syntax perspective, as well as from assertion perspective, and as well as even if you put in kind of the wrong command, it is even able to recognize that too. So I think it's doing a great job in debugging your scripts. So full point over there. Now we're going to take a look at a little bit more complex scenario and see whether this tool can actually help us out with that or not. So let's jump on to our fourth scenario. All right, so we're going to move on to our fourth scenario. So this one, instead of just working with UI, I wanted to go ahead and also make an API call and then pass that data to our Cypress test. So let's see whether it can do that. So I'm going to paste my command here. So I'm saying in Cypress, call an API using get method to JSON placeholder / /post in the before hook. So I'm saying, okay, make sure you do that in the before hook, and then take that data and pass that to my Cypress test, which will then open the URL to practice.automationbro.com. So really simple. I'm saying, hey, make a get call to this particular API. So I just want to see whether it understands how to make an API call using Cypress. And then I'm saying, do it in the before hook, which is again an important part. Then I want you to take that data and pass it to my Cypress test. So I just want to see how it's going to take that data and pass it to Cypress test, because there's multiple ways of doing that. but I'm just going to let the AI tool figure this out. So let's run this and see what we get back. All right, so it's saying you can use the side.request command to actually make the API call, which is pretty interesting. All right, so it's finished. Let's take a look at this. So it's saying I can use side.request command and then side.wrap command to make the API request and pass that response data to the test. So it created a variable at the top, which is called post. Then in the before hook, it's going ahead and making a side.request to that API, which is really nice because it said, hey, make an API call to this particular API. Then I want you to take that response. So it stored the response.body, which is, wow, amazing, because obviously I want to store the response body, and it stored it in post. And now it's, since it created this variable, it was able to take that variable and use it over here. So it created this new test, open the website and log the post data to the console. So it's opening the website here. It's doing side.wrap post to get access to the post body. And then it's doing data and simply doing a console log. So this is really amazing. Essentially, there was a couple of things here which was I wasn't sure whether it was able to do. I said, hey, first make an API call. Does it even recognize how to make an API call? So it was able to figure it out that you can make an API call using side.request. Second, I said, hey, how can you do this in the before hook? So it kind of generated this in the before hook itself, which was nice. And I said, all right, how can you pass this data to my test? So it created this variable which is within our describe block, and then over there it assigned response body to that variable, and then it's using side.wrap to kind of get access to that variable, and then it's using the data and putting it out in our console log over there. So this is really impressive, and you can see here it provided kind of more data over here, or sorry, more information that the response data is saved to the post variable, which can then be accessed in the test using side.wrap command. So in this test, the side.wrap command is used to wrap the post variable and log its value to the console. Really amazing, guys. I mean, this is something for the first time, honestly, I wasn't even sure how it's gonna go ahead and generate this data for us. So once again, I think even in this scenario, it did a great job in kind of reading to the instructions, understanding what we wanted to do, and kind of executing it and providing us the detailed information. So that's pretty good. I can even do try again to just kind of see what other ways it can actually generate that for us. So let's do that to see whether it's going to show me some other option. All right, so this one is actually to make an API call. It's using Cypress.xhr, which is a separate plugin, I'm assuming, to make your API request. All right, so this one is completed, and this one took actually a really different approach. So in the beginning, it kind of installs Cypress XHR. I'm not too sure why it did that, because it really didn't use it in your test. So it says import Cypress XHR top of the test file by adding the following code, and then I want you to add the before hook, and then it's making the kind of the same side.request call, and then it's wrapping that in response.body. But this time it actually used an alias, which was as post, and then used that same alias over here in doing side.get. So it probably thought that we want the data or some kind of element to be returned, and then it's trying to do a get on that alias, which is one way of doing it. Honestly, the answer that we got before was much better than this. But this is still a good way. That's the thing. If something you don't really like, just click the try again. It's going to show you a totally different option on how you can actually do that. In my case, the previous was good enough, so we could just simply go with that. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our final scenario and see how this AI tool will perform in that scenario, and then we're going to wrap up this video. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at our final scenario. Now this one is really interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and paste the script here. So essentially, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to convert the script below, basically the simple script where it generated in our first test. And then I wanted to use page object model. So I'm telling it to use page object model, specifically using TypeScript class in Cypress. So there's a couple of things I've mentioned. First, I'm saying, hey, take the script, convert it into page object model, and then I want you to convert it using TypeScript class. Now there's a lot of ambiguity over here. I just want to see how it will perform when we will actually run this. So let's try to run this and see what we get back. All right, so it's telling us if you want to use TypeScript, then we have to install the types Cypress package, which is really nice. And then it's saying, okay, define a class. And look at this, it's going ahead and creating all of those variables, or basically the properties and the class methods as well. Now let's see what it will do. All right, so it finished our test. Let's quickly take a look at what it did. So it's first saying, all right, you got to install your type Cypress, which is nice. And then it's saying, okay, then from there, you want to go ahead and take this practice website, which it created a class for us. It's like create a class. It created this private property and it assigned sci.get to that get started button. And then it's saying, okay, create a visit method, which is sci.visit. And that's where it added this our URL over here. And over there, it's saying do a click get started. And in that, essentially, it's using this private variable it created or the private property that it's doing this dot get started button dot click to click that get started button. And then in my id block, it's initializing that class over here within my test. Then it's wrapping that into this practice website, converting that into PW. Then it's doing pw.visit, and it's doing pw.click get started, and then verifying that the URL should include get started. So it's really nice because one thing if you notice here, not only it went ahead and created my own class, it had its own, let's say, properties, it created those test methods, it was able to recognize which method to create, which not to create. For example, it did not create any test method for your assertion. The assertion itself, it's doing it over here. So it made sure to only do the test method for the things that can be repeated. For example, in this case, pw.visit or visiting that website is something likely we're going to do it again and again for multiple tests. It was able to recognize that. And even clicking the get started button, this is something again we might do it for other tests too. So it was able to create a method for that too. But for your assertion, it simply edited within the test. It did not go ahead and create that kind of assertion within your class method. Instead, it did it within your test too. So anyone that's actually reading this, they will understand, all right, I'm going ahead, I'm visiting the website and first clicking on the get started button. And then over there, I have my assertion where I'm making sure that it includes get started. So I think this is really great. And it's actually a little bit different than what I got back when I first ran this thing. Over there, it was able to generate the class a little bit differently, and the way you imported it was also different. But honestly, this is a great way of doing it as well. You can obviously just click on try again. It's going to show you another way of doing this. And based on that, you can figure it out which way you want to work it with. But for the fact that it was able to once again recognize what page object model is, how TypeScript classes works, what you need to do to work with TypeScript, basically install those type Cypress, and then essentially how you can import that class in your page file, or sorry, the test file, and then how you can use those test method. All right, so let's do a quick review and take a look at how this tool did for all the 5 different scenarios that we went through. All right, so we went through 5 different scenarios, and this tool did a great job in all 5 of those scenarios. First off, we started off with writing a basic test in Cypress, which will simply open up the website and verify our URL. And then we went into a slightly advanced test where we verified multiple navigation links. And then we even looked at whether this test can help us debug some failing test or not. And then we moved on to calling an API, not just dealing with UI. We saw that whether it can help us to call an API, pass that data to our Cypress test. And then finally, we asked it to convert our regular script into a page object model. So in all 5 of the scenarios, I think the results that we got was pretty impressive. Overall, I'm quite satisfied with this tool. And I think it did a great job in generating all of the test scripts and recognizing what we wanted it to do. Based off some of the testing that I did, I feel like it's really important for you to provide some detailed questions and explain what you want it to do so that it can generate the data accordingly. If you don't really provide detailed information and kind of just give vague question, then of course you're not going to get detailed answers back, and it's not going to give you the right answers. So one of the questions that everybody's been asking is whether this tool will replace your job as a developer or a test engineer. So I personally feel like that's exaggerating a bit. I think this tool will be a great AI assistant to help you speed up your overall workflow. But at the end of the day, you will still need a developer or a test engineer to help build your application or help create your test scripts. And you will still be required to take that code and make sense out of it and put it into the right context. But once again, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this tool. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'll see you all in the next one.